Hi guys, I've been meaning to do this video for like 3 weeks now and my life has just gotten away from me, so here I am. I'm going to be talking about life at Fort Sam Houston for phase 1 of your tech school. I cannot comment on how it would be if you get that as your first duty station, because again, I was there for training, and training environment is a lot different than a permanent party or, a regular duty station. So the way that you're treated is completely different. So I cannot talk about that, but I will talk about what your day-to-day life would look like if you are going there for tech school, which I did. I was at Fort Sam Houston for 5 months. I was there between August and January-ish of 2019. And so I feel like, so there's kind of a lot to unpack with that, and I don't necessarily know what you guys would be interested in and what, isn't necessarily something that's important for you right now. Like, it's kind of one of those things where you'll figure it out when you get there. It's not like, oh, you need to know this, but if you're curious, so basically it's a really long night after you graduate basic training. It's like that Sunday night. Everyone basically after basic training is going off to their first, stations for tech school. And so nobody really sleeps that night, and you kind of are just up and wandering around the dorms. It's super weird because like it's the first night that you don't have a curfew. You hear taps play, and everyone had already turned in their linens, so everyone's bed is stripped, so you can't sleep in your bed. So everyone is like kind of getting taken, random hours of the night to go to their tech school. And so you're saying goodbye to your friends that you have been with now for 8.5 weeks, and it's super sad. And like, a lot of my girls from my flight were crying, and it was just like one of those things where you realize that you may never see these people again. So that was emotional. And so you kind of just, say your goodbyes, try to get everyone's stuff, like their Instagram and their Snapchat, so that you can stay connected with them, and you go off to your tech school. So I think we left for Fort Sam about 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, because Fort Sam and Lackland are really close. They're like 30 minutes. So you get on the bus with everybody, and then you drive over to Fort Sam Houston. When you get to Fort Sam Houston, you're greeted by a few of the MTLs that are there, and you're greeted by the ropes. And so if you aren't familiar with the ropes, there's a couple different rope programs that you can join. It's an aguilette that you wear on your left shoulder, and basically each color of the rope signifies what kind of program you're in. So there's white ropes, and they deal with a lot of the USO charity events. There is teal ropes, and for me, like, I always looked at the teal ropes as like more of the volunteer. So if you love volunteering and you want to get involved in your community, whether that's with the VA or I think they did animal shelter things. I know they did Humane Society. So they did a lot of cool volunteer events. So the teal ropes, and then they also are the sexual assault group. So they really are people that go through a lot of sapper training to get more hands-on training with sexual assault, and being able to be a good peer mentor for someone who maybe has experienced that in the past, or maybe, unfortunately it happens in the dorms. And so, just being very careful, but also knowing that it can happen to anyone. And so just having that group there that's really there for your emotional support, they're really great. So I love the teal rope group. There is black ropes, and they deal with marching and drill, and they are the guidon bearer, so they're the ones that carry the staff. And then there's the Airman Leader program, which is what I was a part of. I was a red rope at Fort Sam, and the Airman Leaders really deal with, unfortunately, they deal with half of the discipline, but then also trying to like take leadership roles in like running certain events, or they march flights, they do a lot of drill, they just do a lot of the command calling up at the front, and just they really are more of the face. And then they also deal with It's hard to explain the Airman Leaders because I don't want to give them like a bad rap or anything, because I liked it. I thought it was a good opportunity for just like more leadership positions. I felt like I was older, so I kind of just fell naturally into that role than some of the others. And you really work closely with your flight chiefs and your MTLs just to try to make sure that the dorm life is safe and everyone is following the rules and doing what they're supposed to do. So that's the Airman Leaders, and then there's 3 tiers of the Airman Leader program. So there's the green ropes, and that's just your first step into leadership, and then there's the yellow rope, which is the middle ground. So you've been an Airman Leader for a while, you're someone that people look to know the rules, to know what's going on, to have the information that, hopefully that they need from you. And then you have the red ropes, and the red ropes really oversee all the Airman Leader programs. They make the itineraries for like what the meetings are going to look like. They're really like front and center for the Airman Leaders, and kind of being the liaison between the Airman Leader program and the MTLs. So really making sure that they are connecting everything and making sure that they're up to date with what's going on, or if there's any information that they need to relay to their flights or whatever. So the red rope is the top tier. So the ropes, I think, are an awesome way to get involved. I think they're a great way to meet people. I definitely recommend them. You don't necessarily have to be an Airman Leader. I think that it's just a great opportunity to just get involved. And like I said, you meet a ton of people, and it is a cool experience. So, and it looks good that you are involved and that you want to get involved when later you want to try to go for Airmen Below the Zone, which you'll be talked to about. If you're unfamiliar, it's when you can build a packet, and you can basically send it to a board, and you have the potential to make a rank earlier than anyone else that you're competing with in your usually it's in your squadron or your flight, but you have an opportunity to make rank early, basically. And so you'll learn all about that stuff as you progress in your military career, and they'll explain it further. But having done volunteer activities or rope programs, it's just a better chance for you to have more things that will stand out on your packet. So I always recommend it. If it's something that you feel like you're interested in, you should definitely do that. So basically, when you get off the bus at Fort Sam, you're greeted by the ropes, and you're greeted by some of the MTLs, and they're kind of going to be your MTIs, but a little bit more hands off. They're there for you if they need you. They definitely relay messages to you, and they are somebody that you need to respect and treat as an authority figure, but they are not your MTIs necessarily. They're not going to be like down your neck, screaming in your face, making you feel like you're at basic training. This is very much a training environment now, and so they kind of just want to transition you from having your MTIs to then hopefully getting you ready for operational. So they do room inspections still. They'll do they're the ones that if you need anything, you go to them specifically. You'll get assigned an MTL, and then they're the ones that really deal with like any disciplinary action. So like if someone pulls your 341, which is that little sheet of paper that I had talked about in my previous videos, but if anyone pulls your 341 for excellence or for disciplinary, then you would see your MTL, and they would kind of decide like what you got pulled for and what the proper, or what the fair punishment is for what you did. So I would say overall the MTLs were pretty cool at Fort Sam Houston. I know that they change every so often, so they're not going to be the same as when I was there, but for the most part they were pretty down to earth, and you felt like you could go to them if you needed anything, so that was good. But you get off the bus, and you're basically told to go in this room that is a auditorium-ish room, but it's smaller. It's called the MPR, and you're given a week basically of briefings for the first week, and so you kind of just get the gist of what your life is going to be like. At Fort Sam, they do PT, mandatory squadron PT 3 times a week. You wake up at 4:30 in the morning for this PT, so it definitely is earlier than at BMT, but Monday is run day. You do a 5K every Monday, and then Wednesday and Thursday are strength days. So you wake up at 4:30, report time is 4:40. I mean, if you want to wake up at 4 or whatever, but report time is 4:40, and you go out there and you do PT with everybody. It's not too hard. I would say the run is probably the thing that people look forward to the least, but if you join the Airman Leader program, you can sign up to be a road guard, which is what I did. I know I'm so shitty for it, but I signed up to be a road guard, and a lot of times you don't have to run the 5K if you're a road guard. So that was something that I was like, yeah, I don't want to do that because I hate running. I've said it a million times in my last video, but I hate running. I just do it to pass my PT test. It's not something I do for leisure, so it just is what it is. I avoid it at all costs. So you will then, after you kind of get acclimated into the week, you'll then start your classes and basically the morning procedures. So you'll report down at like 7:10-ish in the morning, and then they do all these morning reporting procedures, which is basically like just drill. You'll see the Airman Leaders there's one that stands like right in the middle, and then there's a couple that stand, in front of the squadrons, and then they call different commands. They'll salute and do facing movements, and it's kind of just like, I feel like for me it was more of like remembering that we are in the military, and it's not just, lose your bearing because you're out of BMT. And then you say the Airman's Creed and the Air Force song in the morning. Every morning you'll do that. And then they ask you, who are we? And then everyone in the flights will reply, we are the future. So we said that a lot. And I know by the end of it, it was just kind of like, oh my God, like, okay, we get it. We are the future. But yeah, I mean, they really just want to instill in you that like you are the upcoming Air Force. And so making sure that you take pride in that, and remember that when you are faced with potentially like bad choices or whatever, like you really need to keep in mind that you are in the military. This isn't college. This isn't, a vacation. So just keeping your bearing and making sure you're professional at all times, or, for the most part, because we get it. You want to have fun. You want to go out. You want to drink, especially if you're over 21. And so just being responsible, being safe, make sure you take an Uber, don't drink and drive, all the stuff that you guys already know. So, and then at the end of the day, you'll finish your classes, and then you will march over as a Superfly, which if you've never seen a Superfly, it's really, really awesome. So I remember the first time I saw Superfly after I left BMT, and I was just like, oh my God, like these people have no bearing. It's crazy. Everyone's screaming because everyone's singing Jodi's, and the people that are marching the flights, which are like ropes, they're, trainees like everybody else. And so you're like, wow, these, I always thought like it was always cool to like march the flight. And so having the opportunity to march flights and sing Jodi's, like it is like a very like morale boosting, like camaraderie thing between your flight, as long as your flight has good energy. Because if your flight's over there sounding like they're just dead, then you might as well not sing Jodi's, because it just sounds embarrassing when people don't sing back to you. So really just trying to get your flight motivated and making sure that they're screaming and just hype for the end of the day, because you march over from the schoolhouses to the dorms in your super flight, and then you'll have this thing called final form. And final form is when the MTLs will come out, they'll stand on the stage, and they'll basically give you information that they need you to know for that day. So they'll relay any type of plans that are going on, if there's a community event, or if something happens in the dorms or whatever. Disciplinary, good or bad, or either way, that they will let you know at final form, and then you're dismissed for the day. So then after that, you kind of are free. Granted, you go through a phasing program. So I believe when I was there, the phase 1 was around 21 days or so. So after Fort Sam, or after BMT, you're in phase 1. So basically you cannot leave base, you cannot go in a privately owned vehicle, you cannot wear civilian clothes yet. You're still supposed to be in uniform during the duty day, and then if you're going to the gym, you wear official PT gear, and you really are more of like in a transitional period. You're basically on probation. Don't mess up, don't break phase, and then we will give you your privileges back after you have proven yourself to be mature enough to handle that. And so once you kind of move after the 21 days, you'll then get liberty to go off base during your off hours, and then during the weekends you'll be able to wear your civilian clothes, you'll be able to go do what you want to do on your off time. So you really are given a little bit more luxury and freedom. And then you eventually, if you're there for a long time, which is for us, you get to apply for phase 3, which is, I don't know if they still have this because I had heard when I was leaving that they were phasing this out, but if you still do have it, you'll apply for phase 3, which is basically you don't have to attend mandatory PT in the morning. You can PT on your own. You don't have to go to the morning procedures. You can just wake up later and go right to class if you want to. So that's really nice. So we all applied for that, which was good, and we did get that. And then you don't have to march in a flight anymore. You can march by yourself wherever you need to go, because normally when you leave class and go to class you have to march with Superfly, but with this phase 3 you don't have to do that. So it was nice to be able to have a little bit more freedom as you know, as the months go on and you're there, and you know, because you do it every day, and after a while it just gets tedious. So you're like, okay, I just want to be done with this. I want to like move on and go to my, you know, my next phase. And so for us it was Keesler, so we moved on, and we're still in a training environment now. And so, you know, we still have rules and regulations and things that we can and can't do in a training status, but it's definitely more laid back. And so they've given us privileges piece by piece, making sure, I guess, that we can handle them, or, you know, it's kind of just like the way that they do things. So, you know, as someone who's a little bit older, it is frustrating when you have like a longer tech school and you're kind of being treated like a baby, and you're like, I just want to be permanent party. I want to be looked at as an adult. I've been an adult for how many years now, and so I kind of just am over being a student status. But it's not forever. I just try to remind myself, you know, this will pass and you get through it, because, you know, everybody does. So as far as Fort Sam goes, I think that it was a pretty good first phase. I wouldn't say that you are going to hate your life. I've heard stories of other tech schools being a lot worse than Fort Sam was. So just knowing that you know, you're going in there to train, and you're going in there to learn your job. You're not going in there to go to college or party or drink or whatever. And so don't lose sight of why you're there. And I would say you would, you know, you'll be successful. Don't be late. Don't miss PT. You know, just the normal things that any advice, you know, anyone that was giving you advice would give you. You know, just try to do the right thing and you will be fine. But yeah, I mean, I feel like that's all I want to tell you guys about Fort Sam. If you guys have any questions about Fort Sam specifically, if you have your job and you know you're going to Fort Sam, and I can answer it for you. I know it's all medical people that usually go to Fort Sam, so it's medical admin, dental assist, cardiopulmonary, 4Ns, if you're aerospace med, and a bunch more. So if you're medical, you're probably gonna go to your first training phase at Fort Sam. So if you guys have any questions, just let me know, and thanks for watching. See ya.